So we are outside. I'm gonna do a, let's call it a late spring garden tour or a mid-spring garden tour. So we're kind of right in between certain things blooming and fading and then a whole bunch of new things coming on. So I wanted to show you the in-betweens because this year I really want to show different stages of the garden throughout the growing season because it's constantly changing. This year we're dodging different little showers of rain, which I'm not complaining about. I love the rain. So everything looks fresh and glistening. You're gonna see water droplets. But what I thought is this time we're gonna start across the driveway. So what I look at from my kitchen window, and when you drive in my driveway, this is the bed that you first come across. So I thought we'd swing around and start here. So this bed has a couple urns in it. Now I used to call it Grandma's flower bed, but that's only because when I first moved in here, Grandma always had a smaller flower bed kind of right over in there. And I've extended it and lengthened it and, well, formalized it because that's what I do. I put a couple urns in here, and you saw me earlier this year put some Salum philodendrons in them with some trailing Lysimachia and licorice plant. And then I have lots of boxwood in here. Eventually what I think I want to do is extend this garden and make it kind of a not boxwood garden, so some tight boxwood hedging and maybe a design. But for right now, I have some dark Rider geranium in between, and then all of these allium are blooming. There's some serendipity in there, some gladiator, and some Mount Everest. I love the whimsicalness that they can have in the garden. So if I swing here, you're gonna see this long bed. Like I said, eventually I want to extend this, make it maybe a little bit different, but I like as you drive in the driveway, this is really what you come across. And you kind of just swing by it. It's just kind of fun. Kip's gonna follow us today. Right, Kip? You're gonna come with us. So you remember that up here, these are my entry beds. But what we're gonna do is come around and swing to the house here. So recently I was redoing, and you saw me plant the perennials up here on this bed. So I was saying this year that I was really excited for this bed because I finally felt like I was able to soften the corner of my walkway and really kind of make this whole area feel part of the walkway experience. And so if you come up in here, what I did was I have this whole lush area of green growth, and it has Sun King Aurelia to show off some bright color. It has some, of course, allium, and then my big agave that I put here. So it's a really, to me, fun entry. And then now it just extends on this bed beside it. And I have one large blue agave, and I put another one. This is a smaller pup that I'm growing, so it's not the same size, but someday they will be the same size. And I think it's kind of fun to have those there as these great entry plants to lead you up to the front door. And then we'll have all these cat's pajamas, Nepeta or catmint in the back, with all the stockies in front, which is a lamb's ear, and I do the Helen von Stein or big ears varieties, the same variety. Now we're swinging around to the front porch, and I have not trimmed any of my boxwood yet. I usually like to do that here in June. I like to really have the new growth harden off, and you can see they're finally getting some good size. These were all really small ones I started with, and then there's some larger ones at the end, and they're finally gonna get some size, and I'll start having them all be uniform. Behind all these boxwood, I have Bobo hydrangeas, and eventually they'll get that 4-foot kind of tall and wide look, which will be just perfect poking out behind the boxwood. What I love right now is how the Mount Everest allium are all just kind of like baubles in the back, and they're just really kind of floating in the background. You're also gonna see my hanging plants, my ferns. They're Kimberly Queen ferns and some succulents. They're all sitting down because I put them in the rain. So since it's been raining, I love when the rain can water them, so I set them down. So here we have a beautiful little troll ginkgo, which is a small miniature ginkgo, kind of more like a shrub. There's Kip. And then we have the same cat's pajamas here in stockies. So we're swinging around to the side of the house that, honestly, you guys, I think we all have one of these. So the side of the house we're coming to is what I call that side that I try to hide. I think we all have one. It has my air conditioner, it has some pipes, it has some things that come out of the house. It's a side no one really sees when you drive by or when you drive in, but I still try to hide parts of it. But I did redo the flower bed slightly this year and extend it just a little bit. So I want to show all realities of gardening. I have pipes coming out, I have boxwood, I have a larger green mountain here trying to hide the air conditioner unit, and the remnant of a TV antenna that I want to take out, but the cement goes so deep I have to have someone come and take it out. You know, in a garden, you don't have all perfect spaces, and I anyway, have a lot of areas like this that aren't perfect. And I don't talk about them a lot, but I want to show them even on a video and say, we all have these areas we have to work with. And I don't want such a deep bed that I'm planting all the way around this. So for now, this boxwood kind of hides this from the road. And then this area now hides it from the backyard. So this is, again, just kind of some different levels of boxwood, lots of lush green growth. I have betony here in front, Humalo betony, which will get nice pink flowers, and then a miniature betony down below. So this all just kind of curves around to my back patio and then to my backyard, which is beyond. And it's actually starting to look, obviously it's really lush, so the rain really helps. And if you'll remember recently, I did a video on edging this bed. And so this is what I love, when I can see down and see that straight line. It just gives me some good vibes and it makes me feel good. So this area is where I transplanted all of those boxwood on my front walkway from. I had so many of those going down this, and it was just too many. It was not enough room for all the perennials I had in here, and I really needed to rework it. So early this spring, I took those boxwood out and slightly gave some of the perennials more room, moved a few of them. But as we're going along here, you can see Kitty wanting to say hi. But you can also see we have the allium still blooming. Geranium is just coming on. This Mount Everest, I don't know how that bulb ended up there, but it shouldn't be there. So I'm gonna have to move that. But in a week here about, these peonies are gonna pop. Look how big they are. The flies are all over them because of the sweet secretion that they have. That's why ants go on them too. And I just cannot wait. I love these big herbaceous peonies. I try to get in so many of them, but I have lots of different peonies. So these are herbaceous peonies. I also have Ito peonies, which are a cross between a tree peony and an herbaceous peony. And they have huge, beautiful blooms. Still blooming though are some geum, which I love this little flower. If you look closely at this, look how happy and just beautiful that little flower is. I think it's so fun to have it back there. So I recently have been getting questions on color. Some people take notice that I don't do a lot of annuals in my flower beds. And that's by design, it's true. You know, I think in general, a garden has to fit each of our personalities. It has to be what excites us and what we love, and not one garden or type of gardening works for everyone. I do not have watering systems here, none. I do everything by hand watering, whether by buckets, watering cans, or by a hose dragging around the yard. That's both here and at my mom's house. And that's multiple acres of watering. So I don't plant lots of annuals in the ground because guess what? Annuals need lots of water, lots of fertilizer, and lots of time. So instead I plant perennials, and I try to pick ones that are drought tolerant. Some of them are native, which will do better too, and pollinators love them. So that's my type of gardening. I love the green textures that come early, and then the pops of color when different things bloom. So that's my method of gardening, but we're each gonna find our own, aren't we? So going down the line, I recently shared a reel showing my favorite tree peony, which is this beautiful yellow one. The center of the flowers, look at them, they have that big kind of pinky reddish center, and they're just gorgeous blooms, and these smell amazing. And then we have more herbaceous peonies coming. We have some allium over here that has been doing really well. And then we have the big, beautiful roses that are about to bloom. So I have two of these. I have one right there and one here. These are above and beyond. And I think if we go down to this other one, I think one opened up that I could show you. And so, yep, there one is. You can look at this gorgeous color. It's a pinky, kind of light peach color, and it is so fragrant. And it is loaded. If you look over this, it is loaded with blooms. So again, here in a week or two, this thing is gonna be on fire with blooms, and that's both of them. Above and Beyond has always done really well for me, that rose. It's a climbing rose, but you have to train it to climb. It doesn't grab on by itself. So you can see the boxwood right now. Do you see how they kind of look like they're weeping? It's because they're so heavy with that new growth that I have not trimmed off. So I like to let that sit for a little bit, and then eventually I'll trim it off. Lots of geranium about to bloom, more geum. These are the early fernleaf peonies that bloomed a couple weeks ago. Lots of summer blooming allium coming in. I have lots of summer beauty in this bed, which is a little bit taller variety. I love this right here too. This is a big weeping white spruce that I started it from a really small 3 or 4 footer, and it's been doing really well. And then we have more tree peonies, Ito peonies, and then even some garden phlox. This is my bed I kind of play with. It's a perennial bed, but what I try to do with a perennial bed is have repeating things that can give some order, but in an unorderly fashion. So you'll see betony every so often, but then you'll have kind of the haphazard things in between, and that's what I love. So if we swing around, you're gonna see I had lots of allium that were blooming, and they're pretty much all done. So these are nannyberry viburnum trees. They bloomed early on. They had allium underneath, and then the allium's all throughout this formal area too, where I have a fire pit. And all these boxwood hedges I'll start trimming here soon, but I like to get them that fresh growth and then take it off. So we have, this is where I put, if you watched me plant my ginger, and then I have turmeric over there, and this is where I planted them. And then my mint is coming on, and this is also where I put my figs. There's a fig. My citrus is out here that I've recently been replanting, repotting. All those kind of fun things that are things I take in over the winter, they kind of all go out in this area. And then I have some hydrangeas in these beds also. So it's kind of just a really fun area. Obviously you can see I love formality and I love sight lines. So big armillary here. And then this I've gotten some questions on. It's a big stone table, but this is where I put lots of smaller agave, aloe, hawathia pups that I get starts of, or that I break off of plants I have and then get new ones going. So this is that same agave I have by the front door that I have 2 of. I have a couple more out here just because I like to grow them so someday I can have more of a certain size. And then this is the bed that early on this spring I took a push mower and mowed everything off. And now you can see, look at the salvia, huge. Salvia meadow sage. Look at the allium, beautiful big piece of allium. There's some heuchera down in there. It's all just looking lush and beautiful. And then all of those are hydrangea, and they're the Bar Harbor series Seaside Serenade. So they're kind of like an Annabelle, but they can take some more sun, and they're a little bit more upright. I really love them here. And if you remember and watched, see the statues? I recently did a video on moving those over there. So it's the 4 season statues, they're busts. And I put them on limestone plinths over there. And I love just seeing a little hint of them from beyond. I think that's really fun. So if we make our way over here, this year later, I'm hoping to maybe transform this area along the field. See those shrubs? Those are woodward arborvitae shrubs. I want to have maybe a long terrace there that eventually could be semi-covered and just be this beautiful walkway / possibly kind of entertaining area. We'll see. We'll see. I don't know. Things change. I'm someone that no matter what, I'm constantly thinking about gardening and what I could change. And I'm a visual person. So for me, the reason I love to garden is the visual interest it can have, the beauty it can have, and kind of expressing the design part of it, which I'm not a trained designer. It's just like things I have in my mind and want to get out. So we're going to kind of walk out now to the vegetable garden, which is finally kind of feeling full and beautiful and luscious. So when you come from this whole area that was formal, the perennial beds, kind of come through some boxwood hedges and you come down to the vegetable garden. So these are pretty much always what they are. So this is a big bed of rhubarb, but I love to have rhubarb and it's beautiful. This is mostly red varieties like Canada Red. It has a little bit more color to it, which I love. It has all my garlic in it too, which soon I'll start watching for the garlic scapes because this is mostly hard neck garlic. I have some soft neck, but on hard neck garlic, you have to watch for the scapes, which will come out of the top and they're gonna look like a little flower head. And before it opens, when it starts curling over, you cut it off and then you can use that in cooking, which is wonderful. So these usually around mid to late June, maybe in July, I'll start picking them. And when all the leaves are at least a third really dried and starting to dry off and kind of look dead, then usually it's ready to pull. And I'll usually pull a tester one, but I'll show you when I do that. We have shallots over here, perennial onion, which is now going to seed. And I still have an asparagus bed that I'm picking asparagus in. And it's soon you can see the asparagus is starting to go up to seed, and that kind of signals when it's about done. So I'm still picking some of it, but it will soon, as it starts to want to go to seed really quickly, you know it's pretty much ready. And we had a heat wave recently, so it will be ready to go really soon. And then we have now the 4 beds that are always my favorite because these rotate every year, but these are the 4 that have all the summer crops. So I've been harvesting my lettuce. I will kind of go through now soon. My mom uses it, my grandma uses it, I use it, and now I'm gonna keep a whole bunch in the fridge, which I will post how I do that because it can keep for quite a few weeks. And then here are all my hot peppers. So lots of hot peppers. We have habanero, we have cayenne, we have hot banana peppers in here. We have poblano peppers, which aren't too hot, but they have a good flavor. And then I have eggplant at the end, which I love. Over here, I have still some radish coming on, and I interspersed herbs in it. So as the radish are done, the herbs can kind of take over. My kale is here. My carrots are coming up. My beets and chard are coming up, and I need to fill in a little bit. And then all of my cabbage. So we have Chinese cabbage, which is starting to make its heads, which is wonderful. Look at all those now tight little heads kind of coming in. It's beautiful. I've started picking my broccoli. I have a few out here again to pick. If you don't know, you look closely and you wanna do it when these are still closed and tight. Soon these will wanna open because it's like a flower, it's how it opens up. So this is now ready to pick. Same probably with that one over there. And then you have to watch it closely. And same with my cauliflower, I will soon tie up to make it sure it is not gonna turn yellow. And then all of these are my tomatoes. So at my house, I plant heirloom tomatoes, so they're all colorful. And I put these guards over them just to keep the wind from knocking them around, because the wind can be harsh out here. And soon I will mulch this bed too, so the soil doesn't get up on all the tomatoes themselves. But you can see they're looking really happy out here. And I do even put a couple urns out here just out by the garden, because I like to view them. And they have pencil cactus, some lemon sedum, lemon coral sedum, and some succulents, which I'm kind of excited about. So you can see kind of where we're at and see how the garden has really filled in. And soon we'll be pumping out vegetables and peppers and all those things to enjoy. Like I said, I know in the past I haven't had the time to always show different tours at different times of the year. And I think it's important because gardening, it's constantly changing. And I think I show things during the growing season and it's confusing on how it got to that point. So that's why I'm gonna try to do these tours every so often. I'll do them both at my house and over at my mom's, where I do a lot of things too. So you can see where the gardens are at different points and see how they change. Because guess what? They are constantly changing. And when one thing is done blooming, another thing is always ready to come. And that's what's kind of exciting about it. So I'll keep giving updates. I didn't even get to the hosta garden today, but that will come sometime. I need a weed out in the hosta garden actually. So that will be a moment. So we'll get to there too. As always, I'm so happy when you guys watch these videos, because I think as gardeners, we get inspired by just being together and working together. And that is the whole point, is to work together. So share these around. Check my website, wiseguy.com, for tips, for tricks, and for recipes for all the food I grow, because I do eat it or preserve it through canning and freezing, and that's kind of the best part. So I'm gonna go get Kip to try to get him to come in. See him back there? He doesn't love to come in, but he will.